Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Next Gen Racing GT4 Challenge on Gran Turismo Sport. This is the first season of the series. It's round 2 today, and we are here at the Brazilian circuit of Autodromo de Interlagos for what is expected to be a very challenging race tonight for all of our drivers, and we're going to be seeing quite a different set of races by looks of things compared to what we saw last week. I'm your host, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain Spit, and I'm bringing you all the action live from the commentary box here at the Brazilian circuit. And as always, it will be the single qualifier followed by the 2 races with a break between the races, and we're bringing you all the information, all the drama, and all the intense battles throughout the evening. Now, last time out, we were at Laguna Seca in California, United States, for the season opener, and it was a very strong season opener for a couple of drivers, a difficult one for others. Some drivers finding that perhaps their car choices were not the best choices for the season opener, and looking to see how those car choices will mature later into the season. But also, remember, in the first round, everybody was given the opportunity to take the racing soft and the racing medium tyre, whereas tonight, of course, our top 3 drivers in the championship standings at the moment are required to use the racing medium and the racing hard. They will not have the option of using the grippier soft compound, and that will only throw a bigger spanner into the works for them and bring them back in line with the rest of their racing peers in this competition. That's what it's all about, presenting a major challenge for all of our drivers in the Group 4 machines of GT Sport or the GT4 cars, and particularly those guys out front having to use the less grippy tyres whilst they are the more durable tyres over the distance of the race. Will that durability be able to offset the fact they'll have a significant pace disadvantage at the start of the race and going into the midpoint? And only it's really in the final quarter where they'll see that transition and the pace come to the fore. But without further ado, let's introduce our drivers and talk about where they currently sit in the standings. So if we are to begin, we should of course begin with our championship leader, which after round 1 is Next Gen's Les. Bringing once again the Mercedes SLS AMG. Of course, all of our drivers are locked into their car choices based on what they brought to Laguna Seca last time. And Les is currently our championship leader with 39 points. What of that fantastic performance in both races 1 and 2, particularly in race number 2 at Laguna Seca, bringing home the win in a very dominant form indeed, siphoning his way through the field from the back with the reverse grid in race number 2. And it really worked out for Les, a great strategic call, and we look forward to seeing whether the Mercedes driver is going to be able to do the same tonight. Now, the Mercedes is quite a good car around Brazil, around Interlagos, given the fact this is the official balance of performance circuit, or one of them for GT Sport, where Polyphony Digital and balance the cars in the different classes. We can expect that all of our cars here will have particular strengths, and the AMG in particular should be good in most of the sectors here. It'll have a little bit of an advantage in the power sectors, so particularly Sector 1 and Sector 3. Sector 3 of the long run up the hill to the start-finish line. That's where the AMG will be able to unleash its capable beast of a machine there. But at the same time, in the handling sector in Sector 2, it won't be too bad so long as Les gets used to the heavy weight being thrown around and the understeer that comes with it. Then he's being followed in the championship in P2 currently by 4 fishes on 33 points in the Volkswagen Scirocco. Now, front engine front-wheel drive compared to Les's front engine rear-wheel drive. I mean, this car's got brilliant handling, and we expect, based on the balance of performance, that this car will run away with things at the start of the races. The Scirocco is very strong here at Interlagos in terms of one-lap pace throughout all of the sectors, and it's not exposed to its rather weak 6th gear by comparison with some of the other cars, as the fact that by the time it gets down to the halfway point on the start-finish straight, it's only really started to transition into 6th gear, and at that point it's still got a good amount of grunt, and the front-engine rear-wheel drive cars, such as the Mercedes, can't quite capitalise on their advantages. So we'll expect that the Scirocco is going to be strong, but of course the downside is it has that heavy tyre wear, and that is what we saw last time out. Caught a lot of our drivers, and indeed it may catch 4 fish again. He's on 33 points for a consistent performance in races 1 and 2 at Laguna Seca. We then head over to T50 Phil, and I believe Phil is currently sat in the pits right now. Indeed, he's also bringing the Scirocco, and he is currently in 3rd place in our championship standings, what with the 11 points gained from race number 1 and the 15 points in race number 2 at Laguna Seca, mean that Phil will be the 3rd and final of our drives to start off on the medium and hard compounds in this race. I happen to use those rather than the soft and the medium. And he is technically a joint P3 on points, albeit through countback of results. That's where Phil is leading, because he has the stronger result in race number 2 from last time. He's on 26 points alongside his fellow T50 driver, albeit they're not racing for the same team this championship, and that is T50's GJM. Also bringing the Volkswagen Scirocco, and we saw last time how JJM and also Phil were so close together, and it was always the case that they were running nose to toe, but in the end Phil would just have a little bit more in the tank in order to pull away at the last stage of the race versus GR4, but keeping one another honest throughout. And it was great to see, particularly in race number 2, where they worked together very well in order to just cut their way up through the field and manage one another's pace. They traded positions multiple times, there was battling between the two of them, but in the end GR just missing out on a couple of points by comparison with Phil, and as a result he's in P4 in the standings right now due to countback on 26 points as well. You then got in P5 after what was looking a very promising start to the season, and I actually don't believe he is racing tonight. I believe it's the case that he won't be here. It's FOE's Burnt Fry, who was able to pick up 23 points in the opening race, in race number 1 at the Laguna Seca. We're not looking at Burnt Fry, of course, at the moment, so I believe he will not be here. Instead, we're looking at Traumatic Day, but we're looking at the driver who's next in the championship standings after Burnt Fry. But focusing on Burnt Fry, he picked up the win and all the points in race number 1, 23 points max, of course, for qualifying on pole, plus also the fastest lap, and also the win, which is 21 points in itself. But unfortunately, in race number 2, a DNF, he was not able to make it to the end of the race. He had issues with the car, and as a result, went into the wall. Many of you will remember when you tuned in last week, and he went into the wall at the Austin hairpin, and that was a complete shock to the senses. Otherwise, we were expecting that he was going to be right up there, but he's got a lot to do, and not being here tonight is only going to make it harder. But then that gives an opportunity to the man who's on 22 points in P6, and that is Traumatic Dave, who you're looking at. And not much like Burnt Fry, much like the T50 guys, Dave is also running the Volkswagen Scirocco. As he makes his way down towards turn 4, here comes the end of sector 1. Last time out, it was a case that Dave showed consistency, but he seemed to fall off towards the end of both races. What the Scirocco's side where it really impacted him hard, and in the end, it was not to be a solid evening for Dave, picking up those 22 points. And I think he expected there to be more in the table for him, but he'll bounce back to that tonight, I'm sure, the British driver. In P7, we've got Sir Bertus, the Dutchman here, running around in the Toyota 86. Of course, a different choice here, and this Toyota is going to be an interesting one. It's going to be very strong in Sector 2, but in Sector 1, and even more so in Sector 3, the lack of overall engine power as committed to the engine of that 86 is really going to catch it out versus the majority of the other cars here. So Sir Bertus' game is all going to be about being the fastest driver in Sector 2 by a significant margin. He does have the ability to do so, very strong handling car, and as for Bertus himself, last time out, 21 points on the board for a difficult race number 1, but a better race number 2. Find himself battling in the midfield all the way through the evening, and we look forward to seeing more from the Dutchman tonight. Then in P8, we have the Skyver, who's currently running around on the circuit, coming up towards the final couple of corners, going through 13 right now, up to 14. The first of our mini Ferrari 458 Italia drivers here, and the Skyver last time out picking up 18 points. It was a difficult day at the office for the Skyver in round number 1. In fact, things just did not quite go his way, although he did perform as one of the higher Ferrari drivers, but the Ferrari drivers in general seeming to suffer at the Laguna Seca, and it'll be interesting to see whether they are able to bounce back tonight, and particularly the Skyver, who seems to be the stronger of the Ferrari drivers by comparison. However, he is being chased hot on his heels on 18 points as well, but due to count back, the Skyver is ahead, and that is Gino Dema, the second of our Ferrari drivers here, also on 18 points, but P9 in the championship standings. And Gino, once again, much like the Skyver, having a difficult evening. In fact, the pair of them being very competitive and battling with one another every so often at the Laguna Seca, and we look forward to seeing what they're able to achieve tonight. Both of the Brits, as we see Gino making his way up to Juncal, that's turn 12 in numerical format. We then got in P10, NXTGEN's Dominator 3, or we refer to him as Dominator, and I believe he's currently sat in the pits, and he's bringing the Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport, of course. And Dominator last time out, if you remember, ended up starting one of the races on the hards, and as a result had to pit to change tyre immediately. But he's been able to get all those issues resolved with regards to his team bringing the wrong tyre compounds. He's had a word with the team, and they've been able to get the compounds right, so we shouldn't be seeing that happen again. But Dominator on 13 points, I definitely think he feels that he had a lot more available to him last time out. It's because of the tyre compound situation he wasn't able to deliver that. So tonight's going to be about bouncing back for Dominator and showing that he can dominate that midfield, if not getting himself up into that top 5. Then in P11, we have Danzo, and I'm not 100% sure if Danzo is here currently. It doesn't look as though if Danzo is in the lobby right now, although I may be mistaken here, folks. No, can't quite see him at the moment. So as a result, we will not be seeing Danzo for the time being. So that means that we will roll on all the same. And then we have got Major Nesta, who is currently in P12 in the standings, and that is the American driver here of Major Nesta in the Hyundai Genesis. Now, the Genesis, of course, being a very interesting car, a different people. We saw that from Major Nesta was only able to make the second race of round number 1, but he showed good form in the Hyundai, and we're looking forward to even more from the American tonight as he makes his way onto another practice lap with just over 5 minutes to qualifying to go here. Indeed, Major Nesta being the one driver that a lot of people will be looking at tonight and thinking, now that he's got 2 races under his belt, he'll be able to get the 2 tonight under his belt, what will he be able to achieve? And the Hyundai, I think, is a bit of a sleeper here. It doesn't quite have the straight line speed by comparison with the Mercedes in the front engine rear-wheel drive class, but it does have good handling, it's kind to its tyres, and most importantly as well, it just has a little bit of everything, which is exactly what you want at Interlagos. You don't want to be strong in any particular category, you want to have a well-rounded car, because this circuit has everything. It has hairpins, it has medium speed sweepers, it has straights, you name it, it's got it, and Major Nesta will be looking to deploy it in the Hyundai. He's on 11 points, of course, and he's only 1 point ahead of DCast. Now, DCast 16, as we jump to the driver here, making his way across the timing line. Another one of our Ferrari drivers, the Briton, making his way into turn 1 right now. And a difficult day at the office for DCast, right down towards the back. Pardon me, over the course of the races last time out, but he'll be looking to fight his way back, only on 10 points currently, and we'll wait to see what the Ferrari driver is able to achieve here tonight, as we've also then got in last place what is NGR Team 78, and I believe Tim is around the circuit right now. If not, he is definitely parked in the pits. We can't see a Tim either at this point in time, but we do also have some new names jumping up as well, and I think we are rotating some drivers in, so let's introduce our drivers who have arrived at the circuit tonight and who are standing in by the looks of things for some of our other drivers. That's D10 Piper here, who's decided to bring the Volkswagen Scirocco, and do keep in mind, folks, as this is a introductory season, it's the inaugural one, this is the first time that NXTGEN Racing has run the GT4 Challenge Championship. It means that it's pretty open. We were asked to run additional splits, we almost had enough interest for a second split, but at the time of organising it, it wasn't to be. But we've had so many drivers who want to join this, particularly with the format and with the fact you've got those forced tyre changes and those forced different compounds for the top 3. Tyre changes between the races, you can only run 1 compound for each race. That as a result, we've had a lot of people sign up or would want to jump in as reserves. D10 Piper is one of them, of course, making his way around right now. Very fetching livery there in that light blue and rainbow coloured down the centre and also down the side on the Scirocco. We look forward to seeing what the Britons are able to achieve. And we've also got Martin JL09, who's bringing a very different car from what we've seen in the mid-engine rear-wheel drive class. That is the McLaren 650S. Now, this car is perhaps going to be a bit of a danger to a lot of people because on the upside, it's very fast. 7-speed transmission, and that's semi-automatic, of course. Very fast on the straights, but on top of that, mid-engine rear-wheel drive means that it has great rotational capabilities and good handling. The downsides, well, it can use up its fuel rather aggressively, but these are not fuel races, they are sprint races. All our drivers are expected to do the race on a single tank of fuel and a single set of tyres. They only need to pit should they choose to, they're not forced to, and that means that Martin doesn't have to worry about the fuel, and actually it'll make the car lighter and even faster. But the thing he does have to worry about is that this car can be very aggressive to its tyres, particularly those rear tyres over the course of the race. If he's not careful and the oversteer starts to shine through as the car gets lighter and lighter and the tyres start to grind. We look forward to seeing what Martin's able to achieve here. As that is everybody introduced, we're just going to quickly hop down through the field to make sure we're not missing anybody or anybody unaccounted for. But that is what it's going to be. And of course, D10 Piper and Martin are both on 0 points and looking to get their score sheets up to scratch today. As we are now waiting, we've only got the best part of a minute and a half before qualifying is expected to kick off. So we're going to check in with the chat right now, and I hope you're all doing well. As we see that we've got Mundo Virtual Racing saying hello, and hello to you, Mundo, and also to Saronic. And I hope you're both doing well and had a good start to your respective weeks. And if you are tuning in right now, don't be shy, feel free to say hi in the Twitch chat if you have access to a keyboard and you are permitted to do so, because at the end of the day, we're all here to enjoy some fantastic racing and feel safe in the company of others. We're not going to shout at you if you've got an opinion about something, although if you say that McLaren doesn't look too nice, then I may disagree with you a little bit. That is looking a rather fetching livery indeed, but we're all here to enjoy it, and feel free to say hi and chill out in the chat as we are looking to get underway with some racing in due course indeed. And also checking in with race control, we're not hearing anything right now with regards to any sort of penalties being levied against anyone. There weren't any major incidents to be fair at Laguna Seca where drivers were caught up in major incidents, and we would expect that penalties would be potentially dished out, or at least the stewards would get involved. Everybody kept it relatively clean at Laguna Seca, and we're expecting even more of that here today at the Brazilian circuit. It's been very good so far. All our drivers showing one another fantastic respect. pardon me, and we can expect plenty more of that. Now, in terms of the format, I'll just remind you all, we have qualifying, and that is what is a 10-minute session. Then we have a switch over immediately to race number one. Of course, the tyre compound that our drivers qualify on, they're expected to use in race number one. So if a driver qualifies on the medium, they start race number one on the medium, and they have to use the medium in that race. Then we have a break of approximately 15 to 20 minutes, and that after race one, which is a 20-minute race, I should point out. And in race number two, our drivers have to use the alternative compound, and that is another 20-minute sprint race. And of course, their starting positions for that one will be based on a reverse grid from race number one. So if you won race number one, then you start at the back for race number two. So you may be thinking at this point, okay, well, what would you say is probably the optimum compound to go for? Well, I think in the case of D10 Piper, you really need to get yourself off to a strong start here. And the best way to do so would be to go onto that soft tyre, because the Scirocco will utilise it very strongly indeed, and just simply get yourself right up the front. The Sciroccos should be towards the front as qualifying is about to start, and we can imagine if he's able to finish at say P2 or P3 and he goes to the medium in race number two, he'll have the greater tyre life, which gives him more opportunities to overtake and battle in race number two and scythe his way up through the field. Whereas our driver such as our championship leader, Les, who's making his way along right now, as qualifying is about to get underway. Let's see who's going to be on pole come the end of 10 minutes, and we'll talk more about those tyre selections very shortly. As all our drivers get ready to take to the track, let's take a look at what compound area we're really switching to. We see Piper and Martin going to the soft immediately, wanting to leave a mark early on in qualifying, and that'll be good for them to get right up the front. We can see there as well, we've got Fourfish going for the medium this time, but of course Fourfish having only the medium and the hard available to him, he's decided to go for the grittier compound here. And the reason I think Fourfish is doing this is because he probably feels that on the medium he can still get himself roughly in the top half of the grid. The Scirocco, do keep in mind, front engine front wheel drive cars in GT Sport for the Group 4 cars have been balanced in such a manner that they have slightly stronger performance by comparison with the other classes. Now it depends on the circuit, but Interlagos it's going to be approximately about 3/10 worth we would typically expect. However, that is taken away from them in the race because of course they will lose that overall tyre advantage, and that is the offset between the cars. So Fourfish here is deciding to use the medium to get himself as close as possible to the soft runners outside of the Scirocco group. Of course there will be some Sciroccos here running the soft, and then he's going to have the hard in the second race where he's going to need the longer durability of the tyre. But what is interesting as well is the fact that we've seen Les do the opposite. You can see that Les has decided to go for the hard. So Les, I think, is banking on trying to get himself a reasonable result in race number one by qualifying, put it towards the back here in the midfield, because he's got a lot of pace. Les, he seems to be one of our faster one-lap pace car drivers as well in that Mercedes. And then by qualifying in, say, the midfield, perhaps he'll get himself up into the top six after race number one, and that'll start it towards the front end of the faster drivers in race number two, but he'll have the medium then, so he'll have the greater grip. But coming back to the front here, we can see Fourfish making his way around right now, and Dominator behind on that medium as well. But we're going to jump on board with the Scirocco driver here and take you around for a lap. So going up into sixth gear then, he's going to cross that timeline to start our first flying lap. Coming into turn one, he's going to be braking off that 50 board, or in fact just on the 50 board, coming all the way down, using a bit of throttle overlay there. That's very interesting to see from Fourfish. He's trying to carry more momentum in and steady the rear of the car with the camber change downhill into the left-hander of one. And as he makes his way through three now, and onto the straight, which concludes sector one, as we're going to get that timeline just before turn four, we can see that Fourfish taking a very smart and sensible line. He'll be coming up to that timeline shortly, and his sector one is going to be what is a 24.9, a strong opening sector there. Now into turn four, you've got to be careful. You want to get on the power as soon as possible. Of course, he'll understeer a little bit there, but he keeps it together very nicely. Through five, he goes completely flat out. Now into the double right-hander of 6 and 7 here. Two apexes coming up. You want to take a tight line through both, and you're going to see he brakes at that 50 board. He rotates it in with a downshift to fourth gear, and then just gradually ekes on the powers. He makes the apex of turn 7. Now he's going to stamp on the anchors here for the purposes of turn 8. A little bit heavy understeer there. You can see how the car slid across the corner, but he got it back under control with some throttle input. Now coming through 9 and heading up towards 10 here. Building up that throttle once again. He'll be going into the hairpin of 10 very shortly, and he's going to come down to second gear, and you can see how he's constantly keeping a little bit of throttle in check there to try and stop the tyres from screeching along. In fact, that might have the opposite effect there, as he now comes down through 11 and up towards Junção. He's going to go into the braking zone here for the final mainstay corner of the circuit. He cuts across the apex here. Now it's going to be four tack on the beams as he builds up that throttle, and now charging all the way up the hill, all the way round to complete the opening lap here. And what's this going to be from the Scirocco driver as he comes around 14? He's going to go for the little kink of 15, and then he will cross at that timeline. Will he pull over to the left to shorten his run? He will indeed. He's going to stay over to the left here as he crosses the line. It is a 38.2 is our opening lap, and we can see from Dominator here a 39.5. What about GJM? It is a 38.5. We see Phil as well, pretty much matching his colleague's time, albeit 7/10 down there. And then we can also see that D10 Piper setting a 39.2. A lot of cars coming across the line there. And now we see that Les coming across as well, a 39.7 for the racing hard driver. But in provisional P6 right now, which he'll be happy with. He'll want to be there. He wants to be in that top half, or just in the periphery of that top half, as we see a lot of drivers jumping to the pits to get a fresh pair of tyres on it with 6 minutes remaining. As we know that Decast there down in P9 currently on a 40.2. We see Traumatic Dave going provisional pole with a 38.2. But keep in mind, he has got access to the soft compared to, say, Fourfish. And to be fair, that gap of what is only 7 thousandths of a second shows you the pace that Fourfish feels he has on those racing mediums. And perhaps that throttle overlay has actually helped to just keep a little bit more speed for the apex of the corners. And perhaps actually what he's doing that for is to prevent the delay in terms of picking up the throttle coming through the corners. When he comes off the brakes, the tyres are already starting to spin, so he's trying to put a little bit of throttle input in. He will be triggering some additional tyre wear through the front tyres, and also he might be prone to a bit more understeer, but it's helping out Fourfish right now. We can see that as he comes around once again. But taking you through those tyre compounds, I think there's somebody trying to charge off circuit. We see GJM has gone for the medium. Phil as well has gone for the medium. A D10 Piper is on the soft here. He's provisional P5 right now with 39.2. We then got Dominator on that medium, as we said earlier. We've got Les on the hard. We've got his personal best as well. We've got Describer on the medium as well. And Major Nesta on the Hyundai right now. As we see D10 Piper and Gino both battling over a piece of circuit there. And I think the two drivers tripping over one another. And you see Gino settling in behind. He'll get the toe here off a D10 Piper, and I think he'll be grateful for that. He's on the 40.3 right now. But this surely is going to help him out a little bit as he crosses the line. That's going to be a 39. That's a 39.5. So I think he'll be tipping his hat to a T10 Piper for the simple reason that's given him the ability to get up into provisional P7. He's all over the back of the Scirocco driver here, and perhaps he's trying to harass D10 to give him slipstream around the circuit. But meanwhile, we can see Cerbertus going to the medium, and Martin Jallo 9 going for the soft here, but he's only just put in a outlap. So as a result, he's now on his first flying lap, and let's see what the British driver is able to do here in the McLaren. He heads his way down towards turn number 4. After sector 1, he is a good, well, we can't see the sector time there. That looked to me a low 25, probably a low, be about 25.2. So it's looking a good sector so far from Martin as he makes his way through turn 5 and uphill here towards turn 6 and 7 into the double right-hander. He's about to go and carrying that speed through. You can see having a whole 5th gear coming down to 4th there on the apex of 6, just giving him the extra rotation over the corner. And as he comes into the braking zone for turn number 8, you can see how aggressive he is. And he understeers a little bit wide of apex there, just too heavy on the brakes and trying to get the car to rotate when the grip's not available. And that's the thing about this McLaren. If you treat it too aggressively, even with no tyre wear, even if the tyre's completely fresh, the weight of the car will just carry across. As we have had a game crash, ladies and gentlemen, I think. Very sorry if this has happened. We may have to restart the stream and bring it back to you very shortly. Right, very sorry about that, folks. I think we just had everything freeze on us, but we are back now. I hope we're back. That was a little bit odd there. I've not seen that in GT Sport before. But we've been able to get it fixed, and we can see that with 2.5 minutes of this session to go, we've got Martin Jalline, who is provisional pole with a 38.0. So his lap was so fast that he crashed our broadcast. That's how strong Martin's performance is right now. He's 2/10 faster than Traumatic Dave, but he's so fast as to break our cameras, and we will not be taking another look at Martin for the rest of this qualifying session through fear of losing our broadcast. But nonetheless, we come back to what's happening. We can see the Traumatic Dave is currently in a provisional P2 on a 38.2. He's 2/10 down Martin and still holding on to that position. But Fourfish right now absolutely flying, albeit not as fast in sector 2, but we'd expect that on that racing medium compound as he makes his way up through 30 and now round towards the start finish line. Will he be able to improve significantly here? I think he will be able to find some improvement. He was up by about a seventh of a 10th there, and as a result, that's probably going to put him onto that front row. We see him come across the line here. He's going to stay as far over left as he possibly can, and as he completes the lap, it's a 38.271. So he's almost there, but he's just missed out on P2 by 4 thousandths, and he's still got one more lap to go as he makes his way around here. And we can see how Fourfish really attacking the circuit right now, trying to find every which way to get to that front row. He would love to be there, of course, because that's going to set him up the best possible options they all have for race number 1, as we see GJM going the fastest of anyone in sector 1 with 2 tenths up. And we see D10 Piper improving to original P4 with a 38.4. A very impressive lap there for D10 Piper, and he continues around the circuit here on his final qualifying lap, and he's got the toe of Gino now as they make their way down towards turn number 4. And D10 surely is going to be very fast in this opening sector, and we can see he's not quite as fast as some of the other drivers here, only up purple by 2 hundredths as we see Gino moving out of the way there. Major Nesta improves to a visual P7 with a 39.1. Everybody continuing around on the circuit right now. It is looking very close. For being on the front 3 rows, it is very tight indeed, as it's only a second between Major Nesta and Paul right now. That's how close it is, as we see that Dominator on a 39.3 right now, only 3 hundredths ahead of the Skyver, who's fighting for that position in this qualifying session. And everybody was Describer improves. He's up into P9 now. He improves to what is a 39.1. So it's still chop and chase. We see Gino's jumped to the pits. So Gino will not be taking part in this qualifying session, but he'll be starting on those softs. So he's at highest. It's going to be P8. As we see that Martin Jallo 9 is on a purple lap right now. He is tearing around as GJ improves to 38.2. That's original P2. Martin up by 2.5 tenths here. He's nailing this lap. He's only got one more corner to go effectively. And now he's got the long run to the timing line. And what's this going to be from Martin? This is his final lap as ahead of him. I believe that is D10 Piper. So we'll see D10 come across the line first. And what's this going to be for the Shocker driver as Dominator hits a 39.2, which is approximately good enough for P9. And we see that it's not an improvement there, but for Martin it is an improvement of 37.8. That is phenomenal. And I believe that is Major Nesta. That's not Major Nesta in the background. That is, it's not Traumatic Dave either. As we try to look around here, we see 4 Fish parked up, and it's T50 Phil who is coming around right now. He's got the traffic and Sir Bertus ahead of him as he makes his way along. He may get a distant time for Sir Bertus if he times his cards right. And what's it going to be from Phil as he crosses the line? It is going to be, in the end, a 38.7. So he will be P6. We see Major Nesta improves to a 38.8. That's only good enough for P7. But in the end, it will be pole position to Martin Jallo 9 in his debut. And that is a 37.8 on the racing soft. A phenomenal lap. He's definitely sizing up the win in race number 1. And he will be joined on the front row by T50 GJM. As GJM makes his way through the final corner right now. And it is the case. I don't think GJM's got any more competition on this lap unless something magical happens here. He is the last driver making his way around, so he will be starting alongside Martin Jallo 9. And our second row will be populated by Traumatic Dave, pipping 4 Fish to P3 by only 4 thousandths of a second. As we see GJM across the line here to complete qualifying. That is how it's going to line up, ladies and gentlemen. And now we get ready to get going for race number 1. But whilst we do, of course, we see Gino still in the pits, and D10 Piper will be starting us off on that third row, and alongside him will be Phil then. And then it's going to be Major Nesta and Gino line up on the 4th row, and then it will be Describer and Dominator on the 5th row. It will be Les and Sir Bertus on the 6th row. We expected that from Les, to be fair, with that hard compound, and it will be Decast, the last of our drivers, on the 7th row. But here we go then, ladies and gentlemen, race number 1. So as we pan down to the grid, it's Martin on the left and it's GJM on the right, but behind them Traumatic Dave and 4 Fish. But watch out for Les. How can he come through the field on the racing hard from P11? Lights down and away we go. And we can see Martin Jallo 9 getting the best start of anybody there with all of our front engine front wheel drive cars bogging down as would be expected. Major Nesta already up into P2 as he heads into turn 1 here. GJ on the inside, but Major Nesta sweeps all the way around. They're very brave on the brakes, trying to go around 3 drivers effectively into opening braking zone. As we see Traumatic Dave drops down to P4, Gino up into P3, and as they all make their way around turn 3 right now, we see GJ in P5 as Gino battling with Traumatic Dave on one side, 4 Fish and GJ on the other side. It's going to be 4 wide as they make their way down towards turn number 4 for the first time of asking, and you can see how Gino is just squeezing up the stairs a little bit, and Traumatic Dave goes with him on the circuit as they rejoin, and Describer gets sandwiched in there, he gets boxed in, and it looks as though Describer has had to lift off the throttle there, but he's kept the car together, but he's dropped all the way down the order, and that is very unfortunate for the British driver there, who was doing well to gain places, only to see it all fall apart. But meanwhile, GJM's up into P3, he's got D10 Piper over him, and behind Traumatic Dave in P6, as we see Gino up into P7 again as Dominator looks the inside into 8, but he's going to be on the outside for 9, and Gino, I think, will have the natural racing line here, as long as he gives Dominator space, and Dominator holds it around the outside. That Porsche showing its grip available to it, and in fact, he's gained the place, and Phil's trying to come from the inside into 10 here, so as a result, Gino may be at risk of losing 2 places, as we see behind them, you've got Virtus up into P10, behind him, he's got Les still, and then Describer and Decast chasing after Les as they all make their way through into turn number 12 and start charging up the hill to complete the opening lap. And it has been all changed up and down the field at the start. But the major winners at the start of this race are top 2, as we see that Martin Jalonine started on pole and he's still leading after lap number 1. So it is Martin Jalonine leading by 1.4 seconds over Major Nesta, 1.2 seconds ahead of GJM, who's got D10 Piper battling into turn 1. They go, D10 Piper on the inside, GJM on the outside, and under braking here, Piper's going to have it, but he's got to get the switch back in here, as you see that he just squeezes GJM a little bit wider in the corner there to unsettle his line into turn 2, but GJM still makes it through, but he's down to P4, then 4 fish behind, chasing after this Traumatic Dave in P6, then Dominator in P7, followed by Phil in P8, then it's Gino in P9 with that half-second penalty you have to burn, so Virtus in P10, then Les in P11, as you see in there, and Decast battling with Describer as they head into turn 4 here, but I don't think Describer's got the overlap. Instead, he has to settle in behind and wait another lap or another corner to make the opportunity arise, as we see Sir Virtus and Les are going toe-to-toe here through 5 and up into 6. It's Les on the outside, Virtus on the inside. That hard tyre is going to be very difficult to stomach around the outside, but he's able to do it as Sir Virtus tries to ride it on the apex. He's still there though in that Toyota. There's so much grip available as they go in to the right hand. You can see Sir Virtus goes deep and Les goes up the inside, and then he's the outside of turn 9. Sir Virtus comes back at him. It's great side by side, and Virtus holds on for the time being, but Les really trying to push on versus what is the medium shot Toyota of Sir Virtus here, as back up front we can see in the battle for P8 there, it's Phil versus Dominator and Gino. They're still in the same places that they came to this lap in, but they are nip and tuck here as they go into Junção for the second time of asking, and ahead of them we can see the Traumatic Dave right now under a huge amount of pressure. In fact, it's so much so that he's battling with GJ, and there's no change of position right now, and behind him again a Dominator now under massive pressure from Gino, and he's got Phil behind him of course, and Phil will want to use the double toe here and then the better braking capabilities of that Scirocco to try and get a 2-for-1 special. Phil's going to go around the outside. It's going to be a tough one as we see Traumatic Dave and also GGM coming toe to toe. We'll take a look back at that in a second. That means we're looking at the battle for P7. We can see that Dominator's on the inside for turn 2. He took the outside line for turn 1. He holds on for the time being, but how long will it be before Gino looks through? He looks through the move up the inside into 3, so it's the triple back, and as they come down towards turn 4 now, they've got the long run down here. It's going to be a battle of the toe and straight line acceleration, and Phil looks to sweep. He's going to look for it. He's got the place of a Dominator. Can he go all the way around the outside into turn 4? It doesn't look likely as Gino gives it the space, but Phil's still there, and Phil is holding on. He's going to go all the way around here, and Phil, with the patience of a saint, making his way past both drivers and up into P7. That's brilliant by Phil, and Gino and Dominator all keeping it together. Great action. But let's take a look at what happened between our P5 man and P6 man. Dave has gained P5. How did he do it? So as they're making their way down towards turn 1 here, we ride on board with Dave. This is the British driver only moments ago as he went on to lap number 3. And you can see he had the overspeed off of the back of GJM's car, and as he charges into the braking zone here, you can see heavy on the brakes. He's got the inside. He squeezes GJM as much as he wants to, and then he's just simply got it done, and GJM has no way back at him. A nice classic move into turn 1 there by Traumatic Dave, and of course being on those soft tyres versus the mediums of GJM, he will have a grip advantage for the time being, but later in this race we've only cleared 5 minutes so far. That may come back to haunt him, as we see Major Nesta under pressure now from D10 Piper as they charge across the line here. D10's going to have the inside into turn 1, but what can Major Nesta do here? The American in the Hyundai, he will have some handling characteristics available to him of course, but it's not going to be as strong as D10. I think right now what Major Nesta would be wise to do is wait for D10 to wear his tyres out. He will go through the attrition phase much faster than Major Nesta, but if Major Nesta can stay in the slipstream and simply gain the speed down the straight and then stay with D10 Piper through sector 2, which is where the Honda will do very well in sector 2, then as a result I think he will be there come the end of the race to get that P2 back. We can see that Martin Jalonine right now is being reeled in. The gap is only a second between himself and D10 Piper, and Major Nesta would also be wise to use D10 Piper to bring Martin to him by the two of them battling probably within the next 2 to 3 laps if D10 keeps up this pace. but we will wait and see as we see Fourfish right now looking on 1.5 seconds back from our podium finishers as if it was the race to finish right now. And we see that Traumatic Dave in P5 following Fourfish through, and of course Traumatic Dave on that soft compound right now. But how long will it last before those tyres start to go a little bit sideways as we see GJM just holding 5 for the time being and recognising that as well. Phil behind in P7, he's ahead of Gino still, and we see that Cerbertus is up into P9. He's got past Dominator, and I'm hearing in my ear there was a battle into turn 4 that he was able to get the move done through, and as a result Cerbertus up into that P9 position. But a lot of our drivers are accruing penalties as we see Decars falling a little bit away right now. But focusing back on our battle for the lead, we see that Martin is starting to be reeled in. He's got the acceleration out of turn 12 initially, but once that Scirocco gets going, it is a case it starts to reel in, and with the slipstream as well here, you can see how D10 Piper is closing up very rapidly right now. They started this run to the start line 7 tenths away, and now D10 is within 3 tenths, almost 2.5 tenths as they come into the braking zone for turn 1. And you can see the confidence that D10 has on the brakes. But remember, every time he goes heavy into turn 1, he is putting more wear through the tyres, and with those being soft tyres right now, he needs to protect them as much as possible, whereas Martin on the soft can be a little more extravagant with them, and you can see the difference there with Martin having barely anywhere, whereas D10 Piper is starting to enter a little bit of a grading phase in the front tyres, particularly at that front right hand tyre, as they make their way through turn number 4, and you can see a D10 all over the back. Major Nesta just falling away a little bit there, as I think it was just a case that Fourfish went slightly wide out of turn 4, but nothing major out of it. But in the battle for the race lead, we see Martin being harassed here by Piper, but Piper not finding the way through for the time being, just staying right behind as they go into turn 8 once again. And I think it's the case that Piper just trying to get into Martin's head right now, trying to spook him a little bit and say to him, look, I'm going to come at you. When am I going to come at you? Is it going to be this corner? Is it going to be this line? You're not going to know until I come at you completely. As we see Piper making his way right now into turn 10 as they through the right hander here, looking at a very solid is the Scirocco driver right now, as Major Nesta is only 1.3 seconds back from the pair of them and continuing to stay relatively close here, just within arm's reach of a potential battle really kicks off and they start stripping time out of one another. As we see Martin goes wide in turn 12 and he just catches the car, but he's going to be extremely vulnerable now as he makes his way up towards the start finish line to go on to lap number 6, and D10 Piper's already there on the attack point before they even get to that timing line, and he's going to be on the inside through 15. As they come across to start lap number 6, he's ahead, and now it's the case he's got to try and make the break as he flashes lights to Martin. I think Martin's effectively let him through there, and Piper saying thank you for the fact that Martin didn't fight it. But I think Martin would be wise here to play the long game, as would Major Nesta. They need to wait for D10 Piper's tyres to fall off the cliff, as we see the American running his wipers, and that's going to scratch the windscreen. I don't think Team Irondow are going to be very happy with that one, and we see Fourfish being hounded a little bit by Traumatic Dave here. But remember, Fourfish is on the medium tyre, whereas Traumatic Dave's on the soft tyre, so Dave has to make this pass before those tyres start to go away, whereas Fourfish on the medium has the longer durability on the tyre, so we expect that the pace will turn in the favour of Fourfish probably within the last 7 minutes of the race. That's when you'll see it happen, whereas GJM is only 1.5 seconds down right now and closing gradually, but he's just there in the distance as we see Phil and Gino still nose to tail once again. Phil in P7, Gino in P8 as they make their way up the hill, but meanwhile behind we've got a battle for P9, and Dominator having the low and slow run out of turn 5, and Les up into P9. The SLS driver gaining some more places here, albeit he's not on a huge charge. We see Dominator coming for the attack back into turn 8 here, and he puts it on the inside, a little bit of contact. Oh goodness me, Dominator spins! He spins off the circuit. Now how on earth did that happen? Did he just get on the power way too soon, expecting that he was going to just ride off the side of Les's car? We'll take a look shortly, but Les right now under pressure there as we see Cerbertus trying to come through on, of course, well, it's the racing medium tyre in that Toyota, and we can see by comparison to Sky but also there that Les proving to be a little bit of a rolling roadblock for everybody right now in that P9 position on that hard tyre, but he's making it work as best as he can as they make their way out of the final corner out of Junção, the final named corner really, and then they go on the long run up towards that start finish line, and then you can see that Les has just got the acceleration out of the corner, and that Mercedes has got so much grunt by comparison to the Toyota that despite being in the situation, Cerbertus cannot find a way of getting close enough to attack. If he's going to do it, he's going to have to send it from a distance back. Behind the brakes on that Toyota, he's going to send it, Cerbertus. He looks for it, but in the end he has to back out, but he hasn't got the overspeed into the corner, and that's how strong Les is. And because of the durability of those hard tyres, he can abuse them so much more. As we see the battle continues here, as they flow down in towards turn 10 here, and Sir Versus again, he just cannot get out of the position. As Describer's going to come for the attack here. He's going to look to the inside. It's a freeway battle into turn 4, but Describer backs out, and Sir Versus goes way too deep. And as a result now, it was the case that he falls away, he goes wide out of turn number 4, and Describer sneaks his way through here. He pops his head in to take the place, and he's now up into P10, but will Sir Versus come back in into turn 6? No, he's not able to, and as a result, Describer now gains the place by just waiting for the right time to strike. A smart move there as they make their way into turn 8 once again, and we take a look back at what happened to Dominator. Well, we were going to be battling with Decast right now. Up into turn 8 they go here, and you can see that Decast not being able to put up too much of a fight right now, seemingly struggling a little bit is the Ferrari driver on those racing medium tyres, and Dominator up into P12. But let's see what happened a lap ago between Dominator and Les. So we're going to see here as he makes his way up into the corner. In fact, we're going to jump on board with the Porsche driver, and you'll see that he's going to have a good run through 6 and 7. He's able to get that tight line. He has so much speed here, and as he comes down the inside onto Les, he gets in the corner. Does he get on the power too soon? No, he just rides too high on the curb, and that's what sends the car spinning. The rear came round too soon. As he tried to get on the power, the car just said no. But meanwhile, up front, we can see that D10 Piper has opened that gap up to 1 second right now. He is pulling away a little bit, but those softs are starting to wear quite considerably. That front right in particular is now starting to enter the 15% wear phase, and as a result of that, it is going to cost him some time. And to give you an idea, last lap was a 138.3 from D10 Piper. Meanwhile, from our P2 driver of Martin, it was a 138.5. He's 2 tenths the advantage now, D10 Piper, but that is swinging back in the favour of our McLaren driver. And Major Nesta as well, who's just behind the American, a 138.5 as well. So Major Nesta matching Martin's pace. They are very close together in terms of pace, and you can imagine at any point it could start to turn in the favour of the 2 front-engine rear-wheel drive cars. Well, sorry, the rear-wheel drive cars, I should say. 1 mid-engine, 1 front-engine, as they go into the final 5 minutes. 4Fish behind them, having to fend off Traumatic Dave right now, but do keep in mind that 4Fish has the medium to Dave's soft, and as a result of that, he probably will just have enough tyre life to keep him there, but he does have Dave getting ever closer to the back of him, does 4Fish. As we look backwards from 4Fish's car right now, you are riding on board with the Britain as they make their way through turn number 12, and you can see Dave so close, and he knows he's got the overspeed, but he just can't quite find a way to get alongside as they charge through the left-handers towards that timeline to go on to lap number 9. 6.5 minutes remaining in this race as they go across that timeline, and you can see, I think Dave's going to look for a move. He's really trying to get nice and tight across the timeline. Onto lap 9 they go, and I think Dave is going to have this. I think it's the closest he's ever been, and he is going to go for the move up the inside. Dave up into P4, but for how long? He's going to have taken a lot of wear out the tyres to do this, and you can see how he had to take an off racing line there to make it through 2 and 3 through the centre S, and now as he heads onto the straight down towards 4, he'll have 4Fish looking to come back in. 4Fish flashing his lights there, perhaps trying to distract Dave a little bit as they make their way up towards the left-hander. Will 4Fish come back immediately? No, he waits, but you can imagine he will be getting ready and plotting a move in short order. You can see he's all over the back of Dave as they come out of 4. GGN, meanwhile, he's dropped Gino. In fact, he's still ahead of Gino. I was going to say he dropped Gino. Well, Gino's got ahead of Phil. We didn't quite catch that on camera, but GGN chasing after our P4, P5 battle, and Gino getting away from Phil right now in that Ferrari. Phil dropping away a little bit, and then we see that Les still in that P9 position as behind him. You've got Describer and Sir Bertus battling once again for P10 right now. This is going to give Les the ability to break away, just enough to break away, as we see Sir Bertus getting the move done up into 6, and as they come through 7 up into 8, I don't think Describer's going to have a response for the time being. As we see, Dominator has cleared Decast, and Decast 3 seconds back on him. But right now, focusing back on that battle for P4, we can see how Dave has got 4Fish getting a little bit close on the braking here into turn 12. But again, 4Fish by this time, 5 minutes to go when they go on to the next lap. And this is what 4Fish needs to do. He just needs to wait for Dave to lose the tyres. Although he can't wait too long here, because GJ is getting closer and closer. You can see how 4Fish, now that slipstream on the long run here, is gaining very little as he makes his way across that timeline onto lap number 10. But it's all part of the plan, and 4Fish now within 2 2/10. We could be seeing a move here into turn 1 as the camera pans round into the corner. Fourfish not looking for the move this time. He's standing behind me. He's taking a very strong racing line. He's looking for the qualifying line to get the best possible run out of 3, out of the centre S's and down towards 4. But GJM is now in the slipstream of both of these drivers, so he's going to get a double toe, whereas Fourfish is getting the single toe, and this could be a huge later on in the lap as they make their way down towards 4. Will we see a potential move at this time around? I don't think so, as they make their way into the corner and as they charge into left-hander here. It's no change so far as they come through, but you can definitely see that Traumatic Dave in a strong position right now in terms of defending. But Fourfish is going to look to the outside into 6 here. It's going to put Dave on a very tight line, and he looks at the cutback, does Fourfish, but Dave is planted there for the time being. There's no way through right now, but as they look into turn level, Fourfish said that on the inside. He's not quite, he is there, and Dave's got a bit deep in fact, but he will have the inside for 9, but Fourfish gets it done. The pressure was just a little bit too much for Dave at that point, and Fourfish back up into P4, and now GJM within a striking distance here of Dave, as they've only got the best part of 2 or 3 more laps to go here, and that means that Dave is going to be vulnerable now as those soft tyres have hit their limit, and that's where it was all about in the remaining 5 minutes of Fourfish, and he got it done. But meanwhile, back up front, I can tell you that D10 Piper's experiencing the same thing as they charge on towards lap number 11 here. Martin Jallanine is all over the back of him. Major Nestor has had an off somewhere because he's fallen back significantly, but Martin Jallanine now in the tack position. This will be for the race lead as they go on to lap 11. Martin looks to the inside versus D10 Piper. I think it's going to be a standard move here into turn 1. D10 Piper doesn't offer too much resistance here, and I think as Martin goes very deep, but he will have the inside into 2. He can defend it for the time being, and D10 Piper comes on too strong, and it means he won't have the opportunity to use the slipstream. He's going to go around the outside here, but Martin will be on the inside into 4, so it's going to be a side-by-side battle into the left-hander here, and Martin pulling away a little bit, but he will have the greater braking force. But it is the case that Martin backs out of it. I think he recognises he's got another chance. He's still got 2 more laps in which to get this move done, so Martin making a little mistake there, but he will have another opportunity as we see GJM has made the move there. We're just seeing the end of it up into P5 through turn number 4, under braking into the corner, and GJM now chasing after Fourfish, using the durability of that medium as we see it. That Traumatic Dave trying to find a way back right now, but I don't think he's going to be able to find it as they make their way through 7 up in tight unless Dave sends it here into either hairpin corners, either 8 or 10. But if he wants it, I think he'd need to do it into 8, because now GJM will pull away through 9 here as Traumatic Dave goes to that left-hander, and that front right-hand tyre is just going to cause the car to understeer wide a little bit, and you can see how Dave cannot get on the power as quickly as his medium shock counterpart as they make their way through the corner. And now it is the case, once again, Dave has to settle back in and settle to that P6 position and hope the guys in front get complacent and make a mistake or battle too hard. As they come out to Juncal once again here, we've got 2 more laps to go for our race leaders. We can see that Martin inching ever closer in the slipstream here of D10 Piper as they start to head onto lap number 12, albeit D10 Piper getting a very strong run in fact out of the corner, and Martin getting out of the toe there initially and just settling in behind. I think it's the case that D10 really is finding clever ways in order to hold on, but you can see how Martin is attacking the circuit right now. As we ride on board with D10 Piper, you're looking back and you can see Martin there, and off in the distance chasing after the pair of his Major Nestor in the Hyundai. He's approximately 2 seconds back, but meanwhile Martin just not able to find a way and get close enough immediately. But surely with 1 more lap to go after this, it's going to be the case that D10 Piper's tyres are going to be in a very worn state. We can see he has been protecting the tyres all the way through this race, but now as they go with these laps remaining, it's going to be harder and harder, as Martin has got some heavy tyre wear on those front tyres, but nowhere near as bad as his Scirocco opponent ahead of him. That McLaren are looking after its tyres by comparison, indeed the driver looking after the tyres. And as they come up into turn 8, he's going to look to the inside here, but he can't quite get the overlap. D10 Piper being the braver on the brakes, as we'd expect from the front engine front wheel drive machine. And as they make their way through 9 here, we'll see that Martin gets the rotation. He needs to stay right there, right up the backside of the Scirocco and that McLaren, and that's what it's all about for him as Major Nestor 2 seconds down right now. You can only look on at Fourfish being hounded by GJM by comparison. GJM having saved his tyres all the way through the race, and he's going hunting right at the end. He's trying to catch a fish, and he's going to try and do so very well. Or will Fourfish be able to hold on to his place number at the end of the day? We will wait and see. And before I make any more terrible fish jokes, I'm going to scamper you off of that as we continue to watch the battle here for P4. And we know that GGM all over the back of 4 fish. So with one more lap to go for our race leaders, D10 Piper and Martin are battling onto the final lap here. And they are going to get in a 13th lap. It's unlucky for some, but which driver will be the unluckiest of the pair of them as they come across that timeline? You see Martin looking for every which way through, but he can't find a way round as they go up into turn 4. And he has to look again, but meanwhile behind GJM and 4 fish, will they go into one more lap? They will. Traumatic Dave crosses the line in P6. It will be Gino Deva in P7, followed by T50 Phil in P8, Les in P9, bringing the Mercedes home on those hard tyres. And there's going to be Describer in P10, who crosses the line last of our top 10 finishers. Virtus in P11, Dominator in P12, and then it will be Decast in P13. But right now, focusing back up front, we're hearing that it's the case that 4 fish battling with GJM. GJM had the run out of turn 3, but 4 fish on the inside into turn 4 here. So no change so far, but 4 fish really being harassed left, right and centre here. Martin meanwhile up into the lead as they go through turn number 7. I think he must have got that done earlier than that. We're just going to take a quick look back and see what happened there, folks. He got it done in turn 4. You just see the end of it there. So he got it done under braking. Will he be able to pull away and hold on? They've only got the best part of another 3 major corners and then a long drag race up towards the finish line. Martin being attacked now left, right, centre by D10 Piper, and behind 4 fish in a similar fashion. He's got GJM all over the back of him and to drive incredibly defensive here as he goes a little bit deep into turn 10. But meanwhile, one more corner, it's junk out, and we see that Martin holds it on, but he goes a little bit wide. But I think he's done enough. I think he will hold on to pick up the win. He's 7 tenths clear, and by the time they get to that timing line, D10 Piper will not be able to close it down. So it will be a win in his debut race in this series for Martin Jello 9 in the McLaren on those racing soft tyres. He completes the race as the winner. It will be D10 Piper at P2, Major Nesta at P3, a solid result for the American. And in the battle for P4, it's a drag race across the line. Who's going to have it in the end? It's 4 fish just ahead of GJM by only 0.04 of a second. Congratulations to all of our drivers, but to Martin Jello 9 from the United Kingdom for the win. Well, that was an absolutely phenomenal race number 1 for tonight. I always say that, of course, but at the same time, really, tonight, it has shown you how the format is really throwing up the racing with the fact we saw the guys who have to either use the medium or the hard. Well, we noticed in particular with Les having to battle for P9 in the end, but he brought it home there. And we also saw the fact that 4 fish using that medium early, but it will have the hard in race number 2. But still, getting ahead of ourselves here. There are your race results, subject to any insurance inquiries. Martin Jello 9 winning by only half a second in the end, 4.6 tenths ahead of D10 Piper. And then in P3, it was Major Nesta bringing it home 2 seconds away from our race leader. 4 fish with the P4 just holding on by the slimmest of margins versus GJM. And then winding all the way down, you can see all the order there down to Decal 16, the last of our finishers, but will be starting at the front for the purposes of race number 2. Now, with that in mind, ladies and gentlemen, we now do, of course, have the break between the 2 races. It's approximately, if I remember correctly, a 15-minute break, although we'll get that confirmation from Traumatic Dave very shortly. We'll just wait for that. But a phenomenal race number 1, indeed. A lot to talk about there, particularly the Scirocco drives seemingly falling off the cliff in terms of their tyres on those softs in the last 5 minutes. That's when they were hit the hardest, and it just caught out a couple of them, including a Traumatic Dave. And indeed, we've got a 15-minute break, so we will be back racing at 9 British Summer Time this evening. I'm going to be taking a quick 2 to 3 minute break, ladies and gentlemen, but at 10 past I'll be back approximately about then, and we'll talk more about it, give you the analysis and what to expect in race number 2. We'll be right back.